Alright, part 2 of this theme, guys. Chugging along. Um, in research released in 2019, 38% of murdered women were killed by an intimate partner. Sex ratios at birth time in China. Um, 106 to 119, 90, 106 boys for every 100 girls, close to the upper limit of the normal range. Okay. Um, I don't know if this is related to anything I've been reading recently, but okay, that's messed up no matter what the numbers are, honestly. Um, in India, parents may prefer male children because they desire heirs who will care for them in their old age. Other instances of female infanticide are carried out in belief that the female children are better off not being alive so as to not suffer, in quotes. I mean, that could be true, like, but this is obviously, like, being sexist, so obviously it's not about suffering. Oh, it's also classist because she would just be low rank, so she would suffer the low rank, so we must abort her, right? Like, that's all I'm thinking. Alright. Additionally, the cost of the dowry, the family's price for their daughter to be married off, is very high in India, making the female child undesirable, while the male heir would bring a dowry to the family by way of marriage. According to the British publication, The Independent, the 2011 census revealed 7.1 million fewer girls and boys aged under the age of 7, wow, up from 6 million in 2001 and from 4.2 million in 1991. Oh, nice. The sex ratio in the age group is now 915 girls to 1,000 boys. 109 boys for every 100 girls. The lowest since record began in 1961. The honor killings and self-immolation condoned or tolerated by the Kurdish administration in Iraqi Kurdistan has been labeled as gendercide by Mohab in 2003. There have been reports of femicide in Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, where 411 assassinations of women were qualified as serial and or of sexual characteristic by domestic violence, intimate femicides, and hatred against women. The response to these murders has included the criminalization of femicide in the country. Contemporary mechanisms of gendercide lie within sexualized violence against women. The female of sub-Saharan Africa, Sierra Leone, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, and areas that are also at the heart of the AIDS belt, are not only at risk of due to living in places where there are current cases of large-scale rape, but are also susceptible to contracting HIV. Less popularized tactics of gendercide against women include the systematic withholding of critical medical and nutritional care, predominantly occurring, quote, across the belt of deep patriarchy, extending from East through West Asia and into Northern Africa, end quote. Damn. I mean, it is true, then this is just a stage of how they'll judge you. They'll deny you, and then when you look fucked up, they just judge you for that then, and say it's just in your nature to be looking fucked up and sick. Maybe not in this case, but it seems to be that way with American eugenics, and this seems pretty like medical apartheid, so I would have to say it's on that level. Alright. Here, Adam Jones, a co-founder of Gendercide Watch, an online research platform created to spread awareness, estimates that the denial of health care for women equates to approximately the same toll as that of 1994 Rwandan genocide per year. Whoa. Jeez. Over 200,000 die from bleeding, with many giving birth in buses or bullock carts. Lack of health education restricts commonplace medical knowledge, thus bystanders are unable to offer assistance. In addition, the causality rate from self-administered abortion is roughly 75,000. Eclampsia, a condition possible pre, during, and post-childbirth, is characterized by seizures due to high blood pressure, and its effect kills another 75,000 through damage to the brain and kidneys. Moreover, 100,000 die from sepsis, contracted through untreated infections of the uterus and remaining fragments of the placenta that poison the bloodstream. Also, female causalities due to labor obstructions stagger around 400,000 range. Casualties, sorry. Okay. Female genital mutilation also proves itself a form of gendercide, with at least 200 million girls and women having been cut in 30 different countries, most prominently in MENA countries. The practice, what is MENA? I'm just figuring this out, guys. MENA, the Middle East and North Africa. Okay, of course. Sorry about that, guys. Just, hey, come on. I don't think I said go out of that. Alright. This will take a moment. I must figure out where I was. Okay. The practice has shown to have both fatal, immediate, and long-term complications. Immediate complications include infection, bleeding, urinary problems, and long-term complications include vaginal and menstrual problems, decreased sexual satisfaction, and complication with childbirth, including the increased risk of newborn deaths. Additionally, women have historically been the victims of sexual violence, and rape has been repeatedly used as both a weapon of war and a form of genocide. For example, quote, between the months of January and August of 1945, end quote, there were 1.4 million reported rape cases. Subsequently, some 200,000 girls and women died because of sexually transmitted diseases. Adam Jones drafted possible solutions to aid the crisis in Africa. He concluded treatment, quote, would mean training some 850,000 health workers, according to UNICEF and World Health Organization reports, as well as funding the necessary drugs and equipment. The total cost would be US 200 million and the price of half a dozen jet fighters, end quote. Alright, androcide. I mean, androcide mostly happens through war, right? This is talking about kids, I assume. Never mind. Androcide is a systematic killing of men or boys for various reasons, usually cultural. Oh, okay. Androcide may happen during war or to reduce the enemy's potential pool of soldiers. According to the Global Justice Center, perpetrators of genocide often target men and boys first, or give them greater priority, and they may also suffer, quote, other acts of violence such as torture, rape, enslavement, end quote, that tend to be obscured by a focus on the killings themselves, and obscured by the concern of mostly women getting raped, I assume, right? It's still bad either way, just, anyways, blind spots. Examples include the 1988 Anfal campaign against Kurdish males that were considered battle-aged, or approximately ages 15 to 50, in Iraq Kurdistan. While many of these deaths took place after the Kurdish men were captured and processed at the concentration camp, the worst instances of the gendercide happened at the end of the campaign, August 25th, September 16, 1988. Another incident of androcide was the Srebrenica massacre of approximately 8,000 Bosniak men and boys on July 12, 1995, ruled as an act of genocide by the International Court of Justice. From the morning of July 12th, Serb forces began gathering men and boys from the refugee population in Podakari and holding them in separate locations. And as the refugees began boarding the buses headed north towards Bosniak-held territory, Serb soldiers separated men of military age who were trying to clamber aboard. Occasionally, younger and older men were stopped, some as young as 14 to 15. Individual men also fall victim to honor killings. Male honor killings are often carried out by family members to prevent dishonor from falling into families. Well, okay. Reasons for male honor killings range from sexuality to gender identity. People were killing over their gender identity back then. Like, you have an enemy who runs up on you, kisses you on the cheek, and you just feel dishonor because you blushed or something. Okay. I don't... it would be interesting to know people's gender identity issues back then, like when people were using swords and stuff. Oh, sorry. I'm talking about specifically in my mind, off topic here. People, like how people are like, people claim to, anyways, people claim to be obsessed with identity these days, but I mean, nations were all about identity and fighting over it, so. Alright. According to Gendercide scholar Adam Jones, quote, non-combatant men have been and continue to be the most frequent targets of mass killing and genocidal slaughter, as well as the host of lesser atrocities and abuses, end quote. Okay. So, this is sort of converging on the next article I was going to read, but I guess I'll read it anyways. Gendercide against third gender people is the systematic killing of people who do not fit within the Western binary. Deborah Miranda used the term gendercide to identify the Spanish colonial practice of systematic targeting joyas. Oh, yes. That's, okay, yeah, getting a little close to what I want to read here. Yeah. This is a little on the nose of what I had in place. Okay. It's the Spanish term for third gender people in an attempt to exterminate them. Quiley Driscoll writes how this violence was waged against people now understood as two-spirit. In 1513, Spanish explorer Vasco Núñez de Balbo encountered about 40 indigenous men dressed as women. He commanded his soldiers to execute them through making them prey for their war dogs, which were specially bred mastiffs or greyhounds. They were dismembered and eaten alive by the dogs. Third gender people from around the area were rounded up in service of Spanish authority. Miranda writes that, quote, the Spanish had made it clear that to tolerate, harbor, or associate with the third gender meant death, end quote. In his 70-75 memoir, Spanish soldier Pedro Fages wrote that about 2 or 3 joyas could be identified in each indigenous Californian village and were, quote, held in great esteem, end quote. in their communities. Fages sought to initiate a swift reduction of the Joyas, writing, quote, "We place our trust in God and expect that these accursed people, will disappear with the growth of the missions. The abominable vice will be eliminated to the extent that the Catholic faith and all other virtues are firmly implanted there, for the glory of God and benefit of those poor ignorants." End quote. Damn. Europe, or gendercide by region. In Europe, there are many different types of gendercide. Most recent instances of mass gendercide in Europe have resulted from socio-political motions as military strategies. For example, during 1999 in Kosovo, battle-age ethnic Albanian men were detained and killed in mass as part of a Serb military strategy. End quote. Historically, from 15th to the 18th century, girls, women, and some men fall victim to the frenzied cultural phenomenon of witch hunts. It is estimated that upwards of 100,000 trials took place, and from those trials, 60,000 individuals were executed. Individual instances of gendercide also continue to permeate European society, ranging to individual murders, honor killings, to war-related deaths. Asia. When compared to Europe, Asia has a staggering different sex ratio. In Qatar, a Middle Eastern country, there are reported 299 males for every 100 female. The ratio is primarily due to large immigrant populations of largely male temporary workers, or the pervading cultural sentiment of males being more desirable than females. Men are seen as more useful and women as costly burdens. Such sentiments have led to increased rates of female infanticide across the continent, especially in countries such as India. And though honor killings occur everywhere, they occur most commonly in Asia countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Experts explain that such murders are performed in order to protect the cultural concept of family honor. Things dishonorable enough to warrant such actions can range from sexuality divorce to gender identity. I almost want to just sidetrack and see what the hell their gender identity issue was back in the day. But, no. Alright. Africa. Gendercide all across Africa is as range as any other country. Gendercide, through systematic governmental efforts, have been carried out across African countries over centuries. For example, there exists the Rwandan genocide, in which 800,000 were killed and 250,000 girls and women were systematically raped by individuals infected with the HIV/AIDS virus, resulting in even more deaths and a continued issue with the disease even to this day. Now, I assume they did this on purpose, they possibly knew they had AIDS, and they did this maliciously, unless they had no idea of the biohazard they were getting people into. It would be a lot more sinister, obviously, if they were doing that knowingly, bug-chasing people. Alright. Gendercide also exists in Africa through the forms of female genital mutilation, a procedure performed on both African infants and girls that can result in numerous immediate and long-term complications and even death. Similarly, in Europe, witch hunts prove a form of gendercide across Africa. It is reported that both men and women fall victim to witch hunts, but women are more heavily targeted. So they probably have their own ideology of what witches are, killing women in the name of it, but I was also thinking colonialism, giving them the idea of witches to curb the birth rate or something by killing women. Convincing the men, hey, do this because they're witches, and whoa, that sounds like a scheme that's still happening. Alright. in fiction. The periodic film, from outer space follows a group of intergalactic homosexual black men as they exterminate the female population of the Earth, eventually creating a utopic male-only world. Wait a second. I don't know how much I care about fiction. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go on to the next topic. I think that covered what I was aiming at in this article. Alright, on to the next thing. We've probably already touched on that already in some way. Alright, I'll be back in the next one, actually.